toxic masculinity.
DOJ calls Durham investigation partisan silliness. All right, so now Biden's DOJ is trying to end the Durham investigation, which has not gone anywhere because presumably, I mean, there has obviously been some kind of obstruction of justice going on here in some way. It's really weird to me that like Durham just disappeared. I fairly consistently write on my Twitter, where is John Durham? Because we should have gotten a report a long time ago, or some kind of interim report about what's going on, because we know that the FBI spied on Trump's campaign. We know that they were spying on Donald Trump and his people, and and they were trying to help Hillary to win in 2016. We know all this corruption took place. There's obviously got to be people who are held accountable for this. The only person we've got is this Kevin Kleinsmith attorney guy who doctored one email, and he was basically let go. The judge just basically let him go because obviously he was just a scapegoat. So now we've got the situation where there's nobody important has been arrested. Nobody important has been exposed as having been involved in this in any way. I mean, obviously we know some of the main players like Comey, but there's crimes that have been committed here. Like there's these people have violated the public trust. These people have circumvented our democratic system, right? People are going to be like, man, it's a republic. Don't call it a democracy. A republic is a representative democracy. All right. Stop. I don't know why people do this. Oh, you can't call it a democracy. You can't call it a democracy. Oh, shut the hell up. You can call it a democracy. Get real. Just because the word Democrat is similar to democracy doesn't mean we have to just get rid of the word democracy. It's not a direct democracy, so we can't call it democracy. Not true. Not true. You can call it a democracy. People still vote, right? People are still voting. All right, let's see here. So let's go to read this story. DOJ's top national security lawyer slammed investigation into the government wrongdoing in surveillance of Trump aide. Well, of course they do, because these are Democrats and they don't want to see other Democrats getting into trouble. But they should want that, because if I believed that Republicans were illegally surveilling Democrat politicians who had done nothing wrong, right? Trump didn't do anything wrong, by the way. I'm sure that might come as a surprise to you, but there was no collusion with Russia, right? There was none of that. And they knew that. They knew that because they knew the Christopher Steele stuff was garbage. They knew this all came from the Hillary campaign. This is all an effort to get Hillary elected, right? And if I believe that Republicans were doing all this kind of shady stuff to get, Democrats out of office, Democrats who were actually perfectly innocent and hadn't done anything wrong, I would be horrified by that. I'd want investigations. I'd want these people to go to prison. But the Democrats don't think like that. All they think is, no, we've got to protect our people because, like I said before, they have no principles. They have no ethics. All they care about is power. That's all they care about, and this is proof. Though an investigation found that the U.S. government abused the surveillance system to target a Trump aide, the Department of Justice's latest hire slammed a probe. Oh, so this woman's new. Slammed a probe into the origins of that wrongdoing as partisan silliness. In a now deleted tweet, Susan Hennessy, who was appointed on Monday as general counsel to the Justice Department's National Security Division, criticized Special Counsel John Durham's attempt to determine whether U.S. intelligence agencies improperly surveilled Donald Trump's presidential campaign when trying to identify Russian interference into the 2016 election. The National Security Division handles espionage and foreign agent investigations. Durham's inquiry has largely tracked a Justice Department Investigator General's investigation into false claims the FBI made to obtain warrants to surveil Carter Page, a former Trump campaign aide. The Inspector General said the FBI made more than a dozen significant errors and omissions in the surveillance applications. The report was not critical of the Justice Department officials, though the attorneys in the National Security Division did approve of the error-filled warrant applications. The Justice Department did not respond to a request for comment about whether Hennessy will play an important role in the Durham probe. Durham, the former U.S. attorney for Connecticut, was picked, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. Prior to joining the Justice Department, Hennessy was a senior fellow at the National in national security at the Brookings Institution and the executive editor of Lawfare blog. She has criticized Durham in the past, saying that after he was appointed special counsel that he hasn't come up with anything of substance during his investigation. Yeah, no crap. That doesn't mean that there was nothing there. That just means there's some kind of obstruction going on, right? Either they've gotten to Durham and he's no longer willing to pursue this effectively because he's scared or he's been bribed or something like that, or something else has happened negatively. My writer here, the person that compiles these stories, Ashley, has said, it almost feels like the Durham investigation was just an attempt to temporarily placate Trump and everybody else who values justice. Yeah, I mean, I think that there should have been some kind of arrest, something before the election of Biden. We need justice here, folks. You can't simply... I mean, look at what happened in Watergate, right? Nixon had to resign from that. It was the single most, scandalous. It was the biggest scandal in American political history. The biggest scandal in American political history. And this is a 1,000 times worse, I think. 1,000 times worse. The FBI is trying to manipulate an election in a way they want it. And we can't get justice from this. This is crazy. And I mean, I understand to some degree that, like, yeah, this is the FBI. So it's probably going to be somewhat difficult for them to get the FBI. The FBI is obviously a very powerful agency with a lot of an immense amount of resources, and they're going to be able to cover their tracks, if there's anybody bad doing some stuff in there. But now that we know that they've done this bad stuff, gathering evidence on it should be pretty straightforward, I would imagine. Anyway, she tweeted here at one point, Durham has made abundantly clear that in a year and a half he hasn't come up with anything. I guess this kind of partisan silliness has become characteristic of Barr's legacy, but unclear to me why Durham would want to go along with it. Does Susan Hennessy really believe that there was no wrongdoing there? I mean, does she really believe that? Because we know they spied on Trump's campaign. That's the whole point. The whole point of Watergate was that one campaign can't spy on another campaign. So if the FBI is spying on a campaign in order to help another campaign, that's even worse. And we know that happened. So what are you talking about? This is not partisan silliness. This is what we call justice, Susan Hennessy. You work in the Justice Department. The Department of Justice. You work in the Department of Justice and you don't recognize what justice is. I don't know how somebody like that has a job, but I guess that's the point, isn't it? Democrats don't want people who are good at their job. They want people who will toe the line, who will continue to help them to stay in power no matter what. They want people who are corrupt, clearly. But apparently she's deleted this tweet, so she knows how ridiculous that she sounds. Hennessy, who served as a lawyer at the National Security Agency during the Obama administration, cast further doubt on Durham's investigation in an interview with The Guardian last year. The Durham investigation presents the opportunity for bad actors to make a lot of mischief, but the lack of clarity makes it difficult for observers to criticize, she told the newspaper. How can anyone create a lot of mischief by investigating what we already know was abuse of power by the FBI? A clear criminal conspiracy between the FBI and the Clinton campaign, and maybe even the Obama administration, right? How is it possible that investigating that can make a lot of mischief? I think what she means by making a lot of mischief is expose a lot of corruption, right? I've got to interpret leftist talking points here. And the lack of clarity makes it difficult for observers to criticize. What she's saying there is, well, I don't know what Durham's doing, so it's very hard for me to try to find some convoluted way to defend the Democrats that he's going after because I don't know what he's doing right now. So that's frustrating for me because how can I defend the people I want to defend if I don't know who to defend and I don't know how they're being attacked? But I do know they will be attacked because there was a lot of corruption there, but I'd like to know what's going on so I can defend them already. Attorney General Merrick Garland said during his January confirmation hearing that he would allow Durham to continue his work, but he also stopped short of saying that he would release a public report of the Durham investigation once it ends. So we're going to have a, we're going to have to try to get that. Obviously, they're not going to release it; it's going to be hidden. But you know what the really awful thing is? I don't think Durham's going to find anything. And the reason I don't think he's going to find anything is because I think that they've basically. I think there's no chance that he's going to be able to effectively conduct his investigation. Either they'll get to him, and so he'll just make something up and pretend that there was no wrongdoing there, or they'll just make it impossible for him to conduct his investigation. I think it's probably going to be the former. I think they're probably going to go after Durham himself. Or they probably have. I think they probably already have. That's why you haven't seen anything come out of that investigation yet. Durham has secured only one conviction during the investigation. Former FBI lawyer Kevin Kleinsmith pleaded guilty last year to altering an email regarding former Carter Page's relationship with the CIA. And then there was no consequence for that because he was just a scapegoat. All right. Well, that is, ladies and gentlemen, the end of the news. So I'm curious what you guys have to say about all this. Sorry for the little technical difficulty early on. That is, I believe, a bingo square. So yeah, I'm curious what you guys think about all these stories. I thought it was quite a lot of good stuff. I think Yankee the Rebel here, if you notice, that's Ashley. I think she did a great job in collecting news stories today. So I was impressed. And thank you, Ashley, for calling me and letting me know that I was muted. I mess that up sometimes. All right, let's see here. All right, I don't see any questions or comments. There's a Taku Magnet earlier said, if a large part of the people under an elected official have no problem with that politician being deleted, maybe the politician needs to resign instead of doubling down. Being deleted? If a large part of the population under an elected official have no problem with that politician being deleted, I don't understand what that means. All right, moving on. Frank James, if they...
Toxic Masculinity, weekdays, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific.